Now, last week we had the cup was half full. Tonight we're going to have Brian up here, and he claims to be a man that thinks the cup is half empty. So we're going to have a contrast with last time. So my three questions that I always start with: who are you? Where do you come from? And what did you used to do for a living?
I'm Brian Liddle. Did you say where did I come from?
Yes.
Well, I used to live 10 miles south of York, and now I live 10 miles north of York, so I guess I'm a Yorkshireman, really. And I'm a farmer, or I used to be. I'm sort of retired out early through ill health, or although it doesn't always look like that from a distance, but that's the... I'm still a farmer, really.
You're bluffing it, aren't you?
Yeah. Someone else does most of the work now. Yeah.
Right. And since I've got you up here, one would assume that you're a Christian?
Yes.
And were you brought up in a Christian household?
I was brought up in a believing household, a Christian household, yes. But they were an unusual household. They were a house group sect, and they were... still are pretty exclusive for the most part in their beliefs, and thought that everyone else had got it wrong and only they were right. And they were very legalistic, and as a youth growing up and a teenager, I hated it. I didn't want to be different. I just wanted to be like all my mates, and because they were very, very legalistic, we had no televisions or radios or anything worldly. And in the 70s this would be, and when everybody looked like the latest pop group in the 70s with their hair or whatever it was, I still looked like Bing Crosby with my hair. And going through school, I found it very traumatic, and I couldn't wait to bail out, and I bailed out at 16.
You've begun to answer my next question then, which was, if you're a Christian now and you're brought up in a Christian household, was it a smooth transition through for you?
No, not in the slightest, no. It was traumatic when I bailed out, but I never made any profession of faith,
right.
As a young person. Although I probably had I don't recall ever believing that there was no God. Although I used to say that. I used to say that I didn't believe in God to kind of justify my bailing out. But I didn't really want to believe in God, I think, was the truth of the matter. Yeah. And I think deep down, I always believed in God.
So this bailing out presumably meant leaving
their meetings.
Did you replace it with anything else, or did you just join in with the world?
I just joined in with the world, yeah.
And what did that look like? Without being too specific.
16. Well, it was 16, my last year at school, which I left at 16. It was my, what was the GCE year, the O-level year, and instead of studying for my O-levels in the terms leading up to the summer, I think it would be about February, March time, I was actually to be found in the back room of the pub across the road playing pool with some other lads who were just a year or two older than me, and the landlord had decided he would let us in as long as we were out. Before the serious drinkers came.
Okay. And how long did this bailing out last? If you must have become a Christian at some point to be here. Are we talking a year, 2 years?
No, 30 years.
30 years.
30 years, easy.
Yes.
Yeah, 30 years. Yes, I set about trying to prove to myself that all religion was tosh, and I didn't need any of it, thank you. And we, as far as worldliness and enjoying ourselves and my wife and I made a pretty good fist of it.
Right. I think so. You got married in this?
I got married there. Yes. I got married at 24. My wife was 23. I met Lorraine when we were 20 and 19.
Right.
I was 20. We met at the nightclub in York at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was.
Yes.
Yes. And
so what happened to change you from being bailed out to becoming what you are now?
The passage of time has an effect, and I didn't have anything traumatic in my life particularly. We worked hard, we had a good business, I had a wife. I was still married to the same wife. I hadn't gone.
Still married to the same wife?
Yes, still married to the same wife. And I didn't really have any, some people have been in the gutter and they've been in jail or they've had problems. I didn't have any of that. And I had 2 kids, and they're good kids, and they still are. And I had enough money to know that more money would not make me one jot happier. And with friends, we're in the dinner party circle in the village and all that kind of thing. But yet there was something missing. And as I find myself at 45 years old, more than halfway through in all probability, and had gone very, very swiftly, as the passage of time does, and wondering just where it all led to. And I never really stopped believing in God, and the day of reckoning started to loom, I think, in my consciousness.
By that,
subconsciousness.
Eternity?
Yes. In my subconsciousness, I guess. And the passage of time was all part and parcel of that. And the not really finding satisfaction, in not really finding lasting satisfaction anyway, in the stuff of the earth.
And going a bit deeper, did you start going to church, or was it a sudden transformation in that?
No. I was dragged kicking and screaming to the point of confession and faith.
Right.
My daughter was 14 years old. We'd had some good conversations with her and I. My parents used to, it's amazing really, and look back on it, you see the Lord's hand in all this stuff. It's just amazing. My daughter, our daughter, and many of you know her, she would go off to, my parents lived at Cawood, and we were then north of York. My parents still carried on living in the village where the original farm was, and she would go there when she was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and my mother would take it upon herself to tell her about the things of God. And she came back one day singing Fanny Lee Crosby's "Tell Me the Story of Jesus." It was number 1 in their book. And it's we don't have it in this one, but it's in Redemption Song.
Yes,
Tell me the story of Jesus, right on my heart every word.
Oh, right.
Tell me the story most precious, sweetest that ever was heard.
Yeah.
And Georgia came back singing this as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and I was outraged, and I rang my mother up and said that she had to stop. If she didn't stop trying to indoctrinate my daughter as she'd indoctrinated me, then she wouldn't be going to Cawood anymore.
Right.
Until she stopped.
So you have this gentle approach with you.
Yeah, that's right. And, but then age 14, Georgia, and I'm now 10 years further on, and Georgia announced that she'd quite like to go to church. And she had been subject to some influence, ministrations, all good really, from a lad in her class at school, at Easingwold School. And he was son of an elder at YEC. And he's a good lad now, married and with children, I think. I've not seen him for some time, but George is still in touch with him. And he must have had an influence on her. Mm-hmm. And there was 1 or 2 others in Easingwold School who were interested, and they actually set up a little Christian union in Easingwold School, this group of kids. And Georgia started going to York Evangelical Church, and after a few, and this family, I don't know if I can, I'm sure you all know, I'm sure I can mention their name. It was the Runciman family, Colin and Jenny Runciman, and they would come and pick Georgia up from the house, and it was we were busy on the farm and at harvest time, and I thought fair enough, but then after 3 or 4 weeks I thought, well, I'm not so sure about this, I better go and have a listen at what it is that she's listening to, and so I did, and this would be throughout 2005, somewhere in 2005, and I don't remember what I thought the first week, other than, fair dues. I thought it was okay, and it was not very churchy, which I was happy with, coming from a house group sect that believed in no church buildings and no robes or pointy spires and all that stuff. That felt comfortable, the fact that they were in a school hall and they just looked like folks everywhere, and I was okay with that.
So I think you've begun to answer my next question, which is, was it a sudden happening or was it a slow thing over time that made you change?
All I know is that on this would be in 2005, and I went sporadically, but by about 2006, January 2006, I was starting to go more regularly. And I wasn't a saved person, I wasn't a saved man on the 1st of January 2006, but on the 31st of December 2006 I was.
Excellent.
And I was, and it took a whole year of listening to the Bible being proclaimed. And I remember having a very simple view of things, and the pastor there at the time would tell, do the kids' talks himself. Yeah. And I remember thinking the kids' talks were the main event. I thought it was great. And then we'd have to go on to listen to this bloke droning on for 40 minutes, but the kids' talks were great. But that developed, and I started to hear what was being said. And I became convicted that I was a sinner, and I needed a saviour, and there was only one. And I confessed that to the pastor, and I underwent baptism in January, I think, 2007. Okay. So I just know that it was a hard year. Yeah. And I was fighting it.
Yes.
And not
well, likewise myself, I can't put a date and a time.
No. But I can point to a time when.
Yes.
And a manner how.
Yeah. It's like the blind man. I know I was blind, but now I can see.
Yes.
And you sounded
but
that.
There was no one.
I wasn't a Christian then, but by then I was. Yes. Yeah. Final question, I think. What difference does it make to your everyday life?
Oh, well, it's massively different in the sense that I'm not striving for anything. You say I'm a glass half empty. I mean, that's just, I actually think it's really positive being a glass half empty. You're never disappointed. I don't like disappointments. And if you're glass half full and it doesn't work out, then you're disappointed.
Yes.
And if you're glass half full and it does work out, well, then you expected it anyway.
Yes.
And that's no great joy because you expected it. But if you're glass half empty, there's no great disappointment if it doesn't work out. And if it does and you turn out to be wrong, how fab is that?
Yes.
So I think it's absolutely great being wrong.
This is a Yorkshire man speaking here.
How fab is it when you're wrong and it turns out to be loads better than you thought? So I think being glass half empty is a positive thing.
And remembering that we're being recorded, this is going on the internet, is there any phrase or, briefly, any encouragement you would give to anybody that's thinking about becoming a Christian or about spiritual things?
Peace with God. A man said to me when I was in the middle of this year, this 2006, and he was a believer, and he said, I said, I don't need this stuff. I've got a wife, I love her, I've got a house, I've got enough money, my kids are good, I've got a good car, and all this stuff, I don't need anything. He said, have you got peace? And I swore at him and told him to clear, in a joke. I swore at him and said, on your way, son. And we laughed, but he'd hit the spot.
Yes, yeah.
And I didn't have peace.
Yeah.
And to have peace with God and no sins forgiven for all eternity is just the best thing.
And I've thought of another question, sorry. Knowing that you've had an operation a few years ago, were you prepared to die?
Yes. I only vaguely recall telling my wife they'd all come across to the hospital in Leeds and I was about to undergo this emergency operation. And I was drifting in and out of consciousness. But I remember, and she verifies that I said this. I said to her, Lorraine, whatever happens, I'm content. Whatever happens, I'm content. And contentment is where it's at. I'm content. I'm not I think Chris said he was excited.
Yes.
You know, I'm not excited. You know, glass half full people seldom get excited.
Yes, yeah.
You know, but I'm very, very content.
Yes.
Very content.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.